Hi there, and welcome to Sullivan Smart Sense. I'm your host, Heather Sullivan. I am the consumer reporter for Fox 26 Houston, and I'm so excited to be joining you. We are starting a new project with you today. We're going to be joining you live right here every Tuesday at this time to help you make it through this crazy inflation period and really just moving forward. We are going to be picking a different topic every week to help you save money on all kinds of different things. We know so many of you are struggling, that your bills have really gone up because of inflation. So we're going to show you lots of great techniques that you can implement very easily to cut down your bills, save money, make things go a lot smoother, and hopefully moving forward, you'll just be in a better place financially as well. So thank you so much for being with me today. Really appreciate it. And we're going to have a lot of fun on our first episode today, because I know we've all been thinking about traveling, right? Taking an amazing vacation. Put in the notes below. Let us know where you would like to go. Where have you been dreaming of going, whether it's to the islands or to Europe, or maybe even just to another state to visit some relatives, whatever it is that you would like to do. Let us know, and let us know any questions that you have below as well. But I have an expert. I have Melanie Lieberman from The Points Guy, and she's some great inside tips on how to really cut down your costs when you're booking a trip. So we're going to be joining her in just a few minutes. But I know that so many of you are really just kind of struggling with day-to-day bills. You know, we've seen the statistics. So inflation right now is up 7.5% year over year. And Moody's did some analysis recently that showed that the average household, your bills have increased $276 a month just from inflation. That's rent, that's gas, that's groceries. So I know it's getting really hard out there. That's a lot of money all of a sudden that has to start coming out of a lot of budgets. And I know one of the biggest things when they did a poll that people talked about really being most concerned with is gas. And that is because we've seen, of course, the price of gas double. So I want to show you, first of all, a piece that I did recently that has a lot of great tips in it on how to save on gas.
Hey drivers, we want to know, what are you doing to cut the high cost of gas?
I put out gum out in the tank every 3,000 miles or so, every oil change. Put the fuel cleaner in your tank.
And the motorcycle gets good gas mileage. I filled this up for under $14 and I could go over 200 miles.
AAA says keep your driving speed steady. Use cruise control if you can. Leave early morning or late in the evening to avoid stop and go traffic.
If you're speeding, you're increasing your fuel consumption. You want to avoid those jackrabbit starts and hard accelerations, because that can greatly increase your fuel consumption.
And AAA says use regular unleaded gas if you can.
Unless premium fuel is recommended or required for your vehicle, there's no added benefit.
I make my money driving around, so it takes a lot of gas.
Kendall Craven drives for DoorDash. She says she saves money using an app called Get Upside.
It's an app that has your location, and it tells you which nearest pump you can go to, and you link your card, and it just gives you cents back for each gallon.
Other apps can also help you find the cheapest gas on the road. Gas Buddy, Gas Guru, Waze, Dash, MapQuest gas prices, and AAA's TripTick. You can also use store and gas loyalty cards that offer discounts, such as Kroger and giant grocery stores, Shell, Exxon, and Chevron, and credit cards that offer cash back for buying gas. GasBuddy.com now offers a discount gas card, and an app called TrueNow lets you upload gas receipts for cash back.
And here's one more tip. The Points Guy says you can triple stack your savings. They say you can buy the gas using a fuel points card like Kroger, pay for it with the Gas Buddy card, and then upload your receipt to TrueNow. They say they bought $50 worth of gas for $39. With Sullivan Smart Sense, I'm Heather Sullivan. They're great. I love the Points Guy, and that's why I'm excited to have Melanie joining us soon. So many great things. That is a great site, by the way, to go to, thepointsguy.com. Not only will they help you save money on travel, but gas and some other things as well. But to recap and to add a little bit to what I had in that story, again, you want to look for grocery stores, Kroger, Giant, other grocery stores that offer those gas discounts. So the more that you spend on your groceries, you're going to get a discount on your gas. There are gas stations that offer discounts on gas. Shell, Exxon, Chevron are just some of them. Those are their credit cards that will offer you that discount per gallon on gas. There, of course, are other credit cards, Bank of America, different credit cards out there that will also give you cash back on gas or a percentage. And then as we mentioned in the piece there, great apps to have, Gas Buddy and Get Upside. Not only will these apps show you in your neighborhood, and I've used these, they show you where the lowest price gas is, but both of these two particular apps, you can now pay for your gas through these apps. You're going to link a bank account or a credit card, and then that gives you a further discount on your gas. And then just last night, I did a piece on wholesale clubs. That's a whole nother show. But we're talking Costco, Sam's Club, BJ's Wholesale Club. Gas Buddy points out that those places tend to have the lowest prices on gas. And so, one, that's a place that you might want to go. But also, those wholesale clubs also offer their own credit cards. And that gives you a further discount when you use that credit card to purchase gas. So lots of options out there. You can just try one or two of these to begin with. I've started just using some of them myself. Let me know how it goes. And then you might want to add some other things along the way, see how they work for you. And then, of course, there's that great app called TrueNow. You can upload to them. And that also is a cash back situation. So try that. Hopefully that will help save you some money at the gas pump. I was doing a live shot last night in front of a Costco at about 5 o'clock, and the cars were lined up because I know people were trying to take advantage of those discounts when they were trying to fill up their tanks last night. So try those out. Let me know how it goes. But now let's shift and let's have some fun and let's talk about travel. And joining me, by the way, I'm new to StreamYard. This is my first, there we go. This is my first time doing this. So I tend to click on some wrong buttons. I'm going to change banners here. We're going to, there we go. See, we went to gas to travel. So this is Melanie Lieberman, and she is the senior travel editor with The Points Guy. It is so great to have you with us, Melanie. Thank you so much for making some time for us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, let's dive right into it. You know, when I posted that we were going to be talking about this, I was already getting questions from viewers about, well, you know, I want to know credit cards and point systems and, what are the best ways? So I know there's a lot of things we're going to talk about. But first, and let's put our dream caps on and talk about, where we want to go. And really, I think one of the interesting points that you guys make is, so often when we start planning a trip, we decide where we're going and then we try to figure out how to cut the costs. But really, the key can be being flexible about where you're going to go.
Absolutely. Flexibility is one of the single most important things travelers should be thinking about when they're planning a trip and looking for ways to save money. So if you've got your heart set on a destination, but you're finding that you're not seeing the deals you were hoping for, or it's feeling a little out of budget, you can take that inspiration and look for something similar. So that's one of the ways that I really encourage travelers to just start thinking outside of the box, because the more flexible you can be, not only with your dates of travel, of course, but also with where you're going, the more likely you're going to be to find deals. And we just want to continue reminding people that flexibility across the board is one of the single biggest ways to make sure you're going to get a great deal on where you're going.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know, it adds a little excitement too, because you're like, I don't know where I'm going to go when you start this journey. But let's also talk about flexibility in terms of time of the year and season. How can that play a role?
Definitely. So, off-season travel continues to be one of the best ways to save money on a trip. So this goes back to that idea of flexibility. If you have your heart set on a destination, but you're finding that traveling there during the peak time, whatever that may be for your destination, consider going in the off season. You can save a lot of money on, say, a national park trip by going in the winter when you're not dealing with the crowds, and it's also not necessarily the peak season. So throughout the pandemic, we've seen a lot of the same types of destinations continue to be really popular. And of course, when you have a lot of people vying for the same destinations, that's when prices really drive up. So if you had your heart set on a national park or a beach getaway, of course, right now we're in the middle of ski season, so a lot of people are heading to the mountains. If you have the flexibility to wait, or look a little outside of those key destinations, you're going to see really big savings. So when we see people traveling to ski destinations in the off season and hiking instead, that's when you can get great deals on travel.
I'm showing, beach scenes right now because that's what I'm dreaming about.
I think a lot of us are.
Yeah, skiing is way too cold for me, but I like what these pictures look like. Well, let's talk a little bit about can you give us some insight on what are some good deals right now that we can maybe look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is where it's going to come down to being really flexible. So we are in the middle of ski season. We're also heading into spring break travel, and we're in that period where people are on winter breaks and spring breaks and a lot of ski trips. So for people who are thinking about taking a trip in the near future, some of the places where we're still seeing a lot of deals are not to those types of destinations. So we're still seeing a lot of great deals on city breaks. That has been true for a while. City travel has been down. So traveling to New York can be a really great deal. I've seen a lot of deals to Chicago. But then, of course, going back to flexibility and being patient, we have seen a number of great deals to the Caribbean and Europe if you are flexible about your timing. And again, you're just being mindful of watching for those deals to pop up. So depending on where you want to go, sometimes it's just a matter of being patient and waiting for those deals to come back around. But those are some of the places where we continue to see really, really great rates, city breaks in particular right now for people thinking about booking trips in the immediate future.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about, okay, so now maybe we're thinking about some places to go. Some tips in terms of how to start watching costs and cutting costs. I know obviously, they say buy early, but it sounds like to me these days we need, again, that flexibility when we're buying. So what can we do, especially if we see maybe, a price for an air ticket or a hotel reservation or something, they change sometimes. So what's some of your advice in terms of starting to book the trip?
Yeah, what you said is exactly true. Oftentimes, booking far in advance can be a great way to save money, especially if you don't have the flexibility, right? If you have to travel around a holiday, you have a limited window, you don't have flexibility with your destination. Booking far in advance is usually a pretty safe route when it comes to saving money. But one of the things we really encourage travelers to think about, particularly right now when there has been so much in terms of change in the travel industry. If you see a good deal, jump on it. Don't wait. And part of that means being really careful with booking a refundable fare. So not only does that give you additional peace of mind if you're booking far advance, you're not sure how you're going to feel when that trip comes up, but we want people to be thinking about protecting their investment in travel. And even if it's not the most inexpensive ticket, there's a lot of value to be had in that flexibility and in that peace of mind. So if you see a great deal, make sure you read the fine print, but don't wait because deals come and go. So if you see something really spectacular, we encourage travelers to go for it. This is also a really good time to be thinking about booking trips throughout the year. This is a key time of year to be booking cruises for people looking ahead to those kinds of trips. And also, one of my favorite tips is just having a really good sense of what a good deal is. So that means doing your research, using tools like Google Flights has a price tracker, or Hopper. They'll show you what an average airfare looks like, what an expensive airfare for that particular route looks like. Same thing with hotels. So that way you can get a good sense of what you should be looking for, and you'll know a good deal when you see it. And that is really invaluable.
I'm slow to the game on this, and I had just used Google Flights for the last trip I took last year, and I loved it. It was I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know about this. That was really cool. Well, let's talk about points. Because like I said, I got a lot of questions about that, and tell me just sort of, for the beginner wanting to utilize points, how does this work, and how can we tap into it?
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, there's a ton of information on thepointsguy.com. And we also have an app that can help you, especially if you're getting started for the very first time with points and miles. We've got all the information you need to know on thepointsguy.com and our app and all of our social media platforms. But I think the general thing to think about is that points can really unlock a lot of that flexibility we were talking about. If you have a stash of points or miles that you can use to book a flight or a hotel room, the great thing about that is that you don't have cash tied up. Again, we are talking about the ongoing uncertainty a lot of travelers are feeling right now. And so not having cash on the line where you have to then worry about, am I going to get a refund, or a refund in the form of a travel voucher or something that is not necessarily the ideal scenario. Points and miles can unlock a lot of flexibility. Depending on your spending habits, there are certain credit cards that might work better for you so that you're maximizing your daily expenses and getting points and miles that you can then use to unlock all different kinds of travel. And there are also a lot of benefits that can come with certain credit cards that have added value for your trips. So you might be saving money on bag fees with a co-branded airline credit card. These are all ways that, beyond being able to use your points and miles to book a hotel room or a flight, you can be saving money all along the way if you have the right credit card in your wallet.
Can you give us any tips about any particular kinds of credit cards we should be looking at, or a way of sort of, looking at them?
Yeah, the biggest thing to keep in mind, because there are so many and it can really vary depending on what your spending habits are and what your travel goals are. The way I like to think about it is setting your sights on a travel goal. So like we were talking about earlier, if you're craving a beach vacation, narrowing in on where that is and saying, this is where I want to go. Then doing a little bit of research about what points and miles you need to get there, whether there's an airline that you are hoping to fly or that makes the most sense for you, depending on your home airport. You can look at a co-branded airline credit card. Perhaps you're going to get a credit card with a specific hotel because there's a property you're dreaming of staying at. It can really vary from person to person, but I think those are the two biggest things to keep in mind: where you want to go, and also what your daily expenses look like, so that you're using the right credit card to work toward those earning goals.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Let's talk a little bit about there's so many sites, there's so many apps, there's so many, it's almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the really good tools that we can use when we're starting to plan a trip to try and save costs?
Definitely. Well, of course, I'm going to plug the Points Guy again, just for general travel advice, travel news, everything you need to know about points and miles. But then, of course, some of the other tools, depending on what type of trip you're planning, that can be really helpful. Google Flights is a great tool, again, for tracking not only flights across different airlines, but getting a sense of what a ticket should cost if you're getting a good deal. Hopper has great historical data that you can use to get a sense of what your trip should cost, what a deal looks like, even what seasons or weeks of the year to target to find a great deal. If you're booking a rental car, AutoSlash is another really popular tool that not only helps you find the best rate on your rental car, but then also will tell you if they find a better rate down the road. So these are all of the tools that people can use. There are, like you said, so many. So depending on what type of trip you're planning, there might be something else out there that works for you. We have lots of information on our website about different travel tools and apps to keep track of all the different elements. But those are a few really popular ones for all different types of travel.
That's awesome. That is a great. We'll try recapping that again for anyone. But anyone, you should be taking notes. You write this stuff down. It's good to have. You hit on something that was a huge problem in car rentals. Has the shortage, subsided, and have the rates come down?
I don't think we're in quite the rental car crisis. And people were calling it the car rental apocalypse. I think we are out of the very worst of it in some markets, but we're still seeing a lot of shortages just across the industry. So there is, of course, still a car shortage in general and staffing shortages. And as I was saying earlier, a lot of pressure on the same market. So if you're traveling to a market, again, say near a beach destination or a national park destination that's in high demand during peak season, you should expect to see higher than normal rates. And you might be competing with more people for a rental car. I think for a lot of people, at least for myself, prior to the pandemic, it was not uncommon to show up to a destination and be like, you know what, I'm going to get a rental car. And you could just get one while you were there. And we do not encourage people to take that route right now. Really think about booking ahead, like you said earlier, is a great tip. Using a tool like AutoSlash to make sure you're getting a good deal, and locking that in as early as possible, because in some markets, you are still going to feel that rental car shortage in both the availability of vehicles, type of vehicle, and the price you're going to pay per day.
I'm seeing some questions come in, folks, by the way, some great questions and just some nice hello notes. So hello, I've moved here from, Virginia a couple of years ago. So I know I've got some friends still out in Virginia that are joining us. through Facebook. So thanks so much for joining me and saying hello. Let's talk a little bit more about, I've heard this before, but I've heard different things. Are there better days and times to book a flight or to book a hotel? Like, do rates kind of change during the week? Do we need to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning?
I would not encourage people to pay too much attention to the time of day or the day of the week. The more important thing is when you're traveling. So again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, instead of worrying too much about what time you log on to actually book your flights or your hotel room, where you're going to see the real variability is the time of day you're going to be traveling and the day of the week you're going to be traveling, etc. So, if you're trying to fly home on a Sunday night, you are definitely not going to be the only person at the airport rushing back to get back in time for work on Monday morning. So if you have flexibility with the time of day you travel and the day of the week, not to say nothing of the time of year you're traveling and where you're going, that flexibility is where you're going to see the most variability, where you're going to save the most money.
Okay, well, before we started, Melanie and I were talking about cruises, and you had a really good insight into what's going on with cruises. So tell us, what we can expect if you're looking at taking a cruise.
Yeah, so we are in wave season still. This is a time of year when cruise lines are really incentivizing travelers to book those cruises. So if you are planning on or hoping to take a cruise, now is a great time to look. But what you should really be looking for is those value added incentives. And this is true for any kind of trip that you take. Sometimes, as I was saying earlier, the value is in the flexibility. The value is in those additional perks. So look at if you are going to be able to add a beverage package or a Wi-Fi package to your cruise. If the cruise line is going to incentivize you in some way to book now. And that's also true for people who might be thinking about spending a little bit more for a refundable fare, a refundable hotel room, or working with a travel agent or travel advisor. Sometimes you're not booking the most affordable rate, but what you're getting instead is that added flexibility, additional perks, maybe free breakfast. These are some of the ways that travelers can add value to their trip. That is still a really great deal. It just might not on the surface be the lowest possible rate.
And you touched on something because I was asking you about that earlier. Is it helpful to have a travel agent? Does it help to save money, or does it maybe just help to save headaches along the way?
I mean, that part is definitely true. We've seen a lot of people start turning to travel advisors and travel experts these days because, frankly, traveling right now is a little bit more complicated than it was before the pandemic, particularly if you're thinking about going abroad. So working with a travel advisor or agent can really take some of that pressure off. They'll be doing a lot of the legwork for you. And I think all of us can agree that that additional peace of mind and saving a little bit of stress can go a long way. But travel agents can also work with preferred partners to, again, get you those value-added incentives, upgrades upon arrival when available, free breakfast for two. These are the kinds of things that can go a long way towards giving you more for the cost of your trip. Again, even if you're not looking at the most affordable possible rate.
What are your thoughts on baggage fees? Because I mean, obviously, people they'll try and do carry-ons to avoid that, but maybe you need a little more than your carry-on, and you need to do that. But I've also seen people use the trick of just taking it to the gate because they know they're going to check it there. But what are your thoughts to try and save some money on baggage fees?
Sure. People are very passionate, whether they're team carry-on or team check bag. I am firmly in team carry-on, but for people who have to check bags, of course, if you're traveling with your family, if you're gone for a long time, if you're not going to have the overhead space, finding ways to save money on check bags can go a long way, especially, again, if you're traveling with a family or a group. So having elite status with an airline, of course, if that's something you have, make sure that you know what all of your perks are. That can save you money on checked bags. Having a co-branded airline credit card, like we were talking about earlier, can also save you money on checked bags. So these are a few strategies. And again, maybe booking a less cheap fare that bakes in some of these perks can also be a way to save money instead of showing up at the airport and realizing, oh gosh, now I have to check a bag at the very last minute. So planning ahead is probably the easiest way to make sure that you are saving money as you go. There is, for some people, no worse feeling than showing up at the gate and finding out they have to gate check a bag. So if that is a kind of stress you don't want to deal with, just planning ahead, making sure you are arranging those ahead of time can go a long way.
Quick funny story. I was 13 and I had taken a cruise with my mother, and they left the bag, at the original airport. And I wore my mother's clothes, which were a little big
Yeah,
for a few days.
that could happen.
So that was when I learned about the value of a good carry-on with a few outfits in it. Well, one thing that I've started doing lately, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, is, I might check some of the travel websites for the lowest deals, but then I'll go ahead and book the hotel or the airline ticket directly through the airline or the hotel, just because I feel like, we've seen so many with, all these flights that have been canceled and things like that. I felt like, for me, I was a little more comfortable making sure I was dealing directly with them. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really, really great point. And I'm so glad you brought that up. We're really encouraging people as well to book direct whenever possible, cutting out that middleman. We all heard those horror stories throughout the pandemic. If you have to change your travel plans, or your plans change at the last minute for other reasons, it is so much easier to deal directly with the airline or the hotel or the travel provider, whatever that may be. So whenever possible, again, this is another point where sometimes you might get a slightly cheaper fare or deal booking elsewhere, but there is really no price to put on how much easier it is to deal directly with the provider, especially if that means you've booked a refundable fare. You're getting your money back. That's a huge thing for so many people, is not having to risk having their cash tied up in the form of a travel voucher or some other certificate, knowing you're going to get a full cash refund. So booking a refundable fare and avoiding that third party that you might have to deal with if something does go wrong is one of the real values of booking directly with an airline or a hotel.
Okay. All right. We've got just a couple of minutes left. Are there any parting words of wisdom that you want to leave us with? And again, if you want to just recap some of those great apps that you mentioned, please do.
Absolutely. So I think the biggest takeaways that I would really encourage travelers to think about is flexibility. That is so important for so many parts of the travel planning process. If you are looking for a great deal, flexibility on where you go, when you go, what time of day you fly. These are really great ways to save money. Also thinking about the overall value of the trip and not just the total cash price. So that might be getting a value-added incentive, booking a refundable fare for more flexibility. Of course, doing your research right now is hugely important for so many reasons, but it also does mean doing your research ahead of time so you know a good deal when you see it, so you know what time of year or where to go so that you can find a great deal. That is another really important aspect of finding a great deal on travel. Using tools like Google Flights, AutoSlash, Hopper, and of course, the Points Guy, thepointsguy.com. You can find us on social media. We have a ton of information on additional tools that we like to use, and making sure that we help you get the best value for your trip. So have to plug the Points Guy as well. But AutoSlash, Google Flights, Hopper are a few really popular tools that can help you save money on flights, hotels, and your rental car. And again, just being flexible and patient. These are still really interesting times, and I think being flexible is the single best thing you can do to find a great deal.
Interesting is the best word.
Interesting.
I feel like we're in a time warp. Well, listen, Melanie, it was so wonderful to have you. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to plug thepointsguy.com too, because like I said, they've helped me with, gas savings, great travel information, lots of great articles for any consumers out there looking to save money. Thepointsguy.com is a great resource. Melanie Lieberman, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Good luck with your travels.
Thank you. All right. And thank you so much for being with us on our first show. Again, we will be here every Tuesday, different topic every week. We're going to go through your budget piece by piece, everything you're spending money on week after week. We're going to show you how to cut those costs down. and help you get through this very high period of inflation, and just, help you with your overall budgeting and financial planning in general. So thanks so much for being with us. Heather Sullivan, Fox 26, Twitter, Instagram, all pretty much the same. But I'm always putting lots of information on there to help you just navigate the financial waters out there. So thanks for being with us. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again next week.